This is an emergency Three Amigos call. Again, folks, if you don't recall, on Saturday, I was witness to a video by Mr. David Green that about halfway through the video called out one rental at a time and Michael Huber, which I appreciate, David Greed. Um, and it really talked about a couple of things. And if you don't know already, I did a live stream yesterday where I admitted I was really pissed off. Thought I was disrespected. Now that I've had 48 hours to think about it, I actually think there's more similarities than not, but the similarities and disagreements are important and we need to talk about them. Let's go to Mr. Dion from Dion Talk. He has actually had the most interactions with Mr. David Green over the years. So I wanted to give him first crack at kind of telling us his experience and what he thought of the video on Saturday.
So, I've interacted with David a lot, and I've said on many videos I'm a David Green fan, right? So I appreciate that all three of you, the four Avengers, have reached out to me and said, hey, we're going to be transparent and blunt about this. Is that going to impact you? And no, it's not in any way whatsoever. Be completely transparent and blunt. I don't work for Bigger Pockets. I actually have a list from that video and from interacting with David Green. There are some things in that video he's 100% right on. He just nailed a couple things. And then there's some things that he nailed completely wrong. So in this video, I'd like to cover those, the things he got right, the things he got wrong. And then I would like, even though I'm a David Green fan, to confirm the douchebagness of one of his statements. In my Bigger Pockets interview with David Green and Brandon Turner, it was like episode 448, I messed up your name. We're all aware I have memory issues. I call you Michael Gruber, right? It's right there in the video, immortalized. David Green corrected me to Michael Zuber in that video. So yes, I think it was a personal, let me devalue this person by then saying only 1% of people can reproduce his thing, which goes in the list of things he didn't get right.
Yeah. I think there's a lot there. I do think it was on purpose. I think it was a total douchebag move to do that, but that's okay. David Greed got a lot of things going, so we'll get into that in a minute. But Matt, I don't think you've interacted with him. I know you were commenting. I know you frequently commented on this stuff, but you don't know him from Adam. What was your first reaction when this YouTube video was sent around to the four Avengers and you saw it? I'm sure you got hot, probably.
I can't say that in the first 8 minutes, Mike. I know the rules. Come on, man. No, I mean, I just think, for me, I am all about forwarding the conversation. All three of us, right, disagree with a part of our businesses. All of us do. All four of us, and Millennial Mike as well. We all disagree with parts of our business, but we all got really rich doing it. I would consider all of us rich. And so for me, when somebody says the things that he says, I actually work with small businesses all the time. I know he's factually wrong about everybody needing to own a business. I know he's factually wrong about anybody and everybody being able to be an entrepreneur. Schools teach and train employees. They don't teach and train entrepreneurship. So usually the less you were in school, Dion and me, the less you were in school, the more entrepreneurial you are, because that's what you learn when you trying to just get your next meal. You get real entrepreneurial. Hopefully it's legal. That's the line that you're trying to cross, is hopefully it's legal. So, all due respect to David, he's not been an investor all that long. We've got almost more than a decade into it than he does, you and me, Mike. And I, all due respect, we're wildly more successful on our returns than he is. And so I always try and put myself in the other person's shoes. And I think what he's looking at is he's looking at his businesses. I heard a number reported of 100 employees down to 50. So him looking through that set of lenses is every business is in trouble. Disagree. I work with a lot of businesses that are growing off the charts that are constantly hiring. So while I agree that there's plenty of businesses that are struggling, he's looking through it through the lens of the businesses that I have are all very much struggling. But he created strategies and businesses that are all around exactly the same thing. he's not getting the transactions. You're not seeing a bunch of new brokers enter into the space, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that he's, I don't want to say a victim of that, but recognizing that if I'm putting myself in his shoes, I look at it and go, man, all of my businesses are struggling. They're all down. My rentals aren't performing as well. Then this is going to be my viewpoint, because you can only have the viewpoint based on your experience. I just have different experience. My revenues are up 14% this year. They're going to finish the year up over 21%. And I think any small company would take a 21% increase in their net cash flow. So, I just try and take it where it was. I did try to let him off the hook with a couple of the comments that I posted, just saying, I disagree and I think you're wrong and here's why. And he answered one, and then the next one, he just deleted my response. And it wasn't filled with any fire or hate or vigor, because I don't really care. What it really is much more about to me is the people that are impressionable that watch his show that think he figured it out.
Yeah.
He hasn't. He hasn't. There's more gaping holes there in what he thinks he's figured out. And that comes from longevity in any business. 26 years in corporate America, on top of that, having a 24-year-old portfolio. Those are pretty mature things. And I don't expect any 24-year-old thing of anything to act like a 12-year-old thing of anything. And that's just where it comes in. I think that he can only speak to what has been revealed and is revelation to him.
Yeah, so I want to talk about a couple of things, because again, I went from being hot and pissed off to kind of peeling back the onion. So the first thing I want to talk about, and I have a long list, is the answer for employees. Because the three of us, took we're going to be employees, live below our means, build something slow. Dion's case, I think it took 9 years. It took 15 or 16 for me. Matt, maybe it took 14 for you. It's not. And a lot of David Green's kind of talk track was, hey, if you hate your job, go become an entrepreneur. Go become a 1099 for an entrepreneur. Go build a business. And again, I'm willing to admit, because he was able to tap into the Bigger Pockets name, because he is friends with Brandon Turner, who has this aura around him for years. He was able to use that relationships and that platform to build various real estate businesses, and it worked for him. So I think Dion always tells me it's hard to it's always hard to remember what it was like to not know. And I think David Green is biased towards entrepreneurship's the route. I go back to Ed Milet, who says only 9% of us are naturally born entrepreneurs.
Correct.
And if, let's go 1 in 10, just for simpler math. I think it's disingenuous, if the 1 in 10 is the right ratio, to say entrepreneurship's the right route. I believe, and the three of us, and then we throw Mike on top of that, the four of us, and probably 20 people that I interview a week on my channel are like, you know what? Go get a job, be good at your job, use the job as the tool, do it for a decade, and you're going to get rich. Nowhere has any of us ever said, go buy 2 duplexes, get some cash flow, and quit. He said that repeatedly in his video. What idiot gets 2 duplexes and quits his job? That is stupid. Go ahead, Dion.
Well, this is one of the things that I think he got right. I don't think he was saying, we specifically said do this. He was, because this is where he's right. He said $5,000 a month from your job and $5,000 a month from your rentals is very different.
Oh, absolutely.
So he leaves it there, which leaves that vague idea that that's what everyone else is saying to do. How many times have we said, you have a freedom number that makes your work optional, so now you can change jobs. Like if you hate your job, now you can go change jobs and maybe not have to make as much. But what is your multiplier? What is your safety net? Not just reserves, but how much more than your freedom number do you need to make before you retire? And for me, I've said it 1,000 times. It was 4, right?
Yeah.
It takes me
4x.
4,000 a month to live. As soon as I passed 16, I felt kind of silly going to work. So right, at 4, retirement wasn't even an idea, the level of risk that would be. So he's right.
Oh, yeah.
That presentation was off.
Oh, I completely agree with him. And I've said it before, right? If you're cash flow, and let's just assume you calculate it correctly, your expected cash flow at the end of the month equals your income, you have no right quitting your job. To your point, you can quit your job, you can be more flexible, you have options, but you're not done. depending on the, I guess it would be the denominator, your case, 4 grand, that'll tell you how many, more times you want to go to 4X. If your freedom number is 20 grand, you don't need 4X. Maybe it's 2.5X, right? Yeah, I agree. I think he got that right. But I want to go back to this. Entrepreneurship is the only way. If you hate your job, quit your job. That is just, in my opinion, horrible advice. 90% of us are not wired to do that well. Can you imagine the stress? I mean, me personally, he had 100 1099s, now has 50 1099s. He fired 50 of them, but he still has 50. Do you know how I would not be able to sleep? Now, good for him. He is wired. He likes the chaos. He's busy. Go nuts. I am not wired that way. That might kill me.
So,
Matt, what do you think?
yeah. So to that end, like as an entrepreneur, I can speak to this. 20% of companies fail within 2 years. And Dion, I know that you shared this story publicly, so I don't think I'm outing you. But if I'm outing you, say so.
Twice.
Okay. So you did 2 companies.
Mhm.
And when you closed the doors, did you owe money?
Oh yeah, it costs money to shut down a business.
Absolutely. And this is what David doesn't quite grasp. He might have to grasp it with some of the next couple of years, because when you close a business, 20% of people that open up a business close it within 2 years. They don't walk out of those businesses debt free. They walk out of those businesses rolled with debt. They owe credit card debt. They owe lease debt. They owe payments on product, and they owe payments on material. They owe payments on buses and trucks, and they own all of these payments, and they're going to have to find a way to unravel it all. So when you close a business in 2 years, you're not walking away just going, that was fun. Made some money. Not really worth it anymore. No, you are laden with debt. Here's the next issue. 45% of businesses fail within 5 years. Same scenario. When you've walked the last 5 years doing everything you possibly could, because that's what entrepreneurs do. Everything they possibly can to keep that thing alive, even though they're fighting the tape. The tape is telling them close, 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 and they're fighting with everything they have because their identity is in it now that it's 5 years old. It's a 5-year-old child, and they don't want to walk away. They don't want to quit. And there's going to be a ton of debt that they owe to close those doors. Now, I say all that to say this. Tell me the number of real estate investors. Tell me the percentage of real estate investors that after 5 years have lost a bunch of money in actual losses. Tell me it's 45%. Tell me it's 45 people out of 100 that bought a duplex or 2 or whatever. That they are now losing money that is going to cost them to get out of the game. Tell me it's 45%. Tell me it's 45 people out of 100. It might be 5. Might be.
That's the beauty of this game is the other thing that I felt slighted for, again, because he called us out. We've never talked about this being a 2-year journey. I mean,
Never.
My whole get wealthy is 10-year minimum. So I think that's very disingenuous. But I want to stay on this topic because, again, it's worked for him. He's clearly, near as I can tell, 50 mouths to feed sounds successful to me. Also sounds scary as hell, as I've said earlier. It's just, I could not imagine the stress. Because I believe he's single. I don't believe he's married. I don't believe he has kids. I don't even believe he has a pet. So he has, the cycles to kind of go all in and work crazy hours and doesn't have to answer to anybody. And is that most people? Are most people that way? No. And I just
life is that way, and he chooses not to do it.
Yeah, I just fundamentally disagree with the notion that that's the right way, that's the easy way, that's the low stress way, that's the best way. Can you imagine the amount of brain cycles it would take to keep this thing alive that wants to die every quarter? And while you're just working a W-2, it's night and day difference. It's not even close. Dion?
You pointed out when you said it was mindset. You said that the mindset that it would take to do this would be really hard. So David was right when he said, if you buy a duplex, it might not look great now. It's probably going to look great in 15 years after you've owned it. He said that, those exact words. The 15
we agree.
year, the 10 year, the whatever. But yeah, not in 2 years. So he's right. Presentation was, so don't do it. Like he didn't say that word, but that's what it was inferred. And then he says, the most exciting asset to own, right? Which is your favorite asset to own is one of the questions.
Yeah.
He said it's short-term rentals because it's a puzzle that you can continuously solve.
Oh, that
So
killed
there's
me
the
when he said
mindset,
that.
Mike, right? I'll use myself so I won't put words in someone else's mouth. I'm the
Okay.
lazy person that wants time freedom to do what I want, which is anything, not nothing. It's right. Sometimes it's nothing, but it's anything.
Mhm.
He wants the puzzle.
Yeah, I
I
couldn't
go long
imagine.
term. I've talked to a tenant. I talked to a tenant the other day. There's actually it's the nightmare of landlord thing. She has a clogged sink. So I
Oh,
text my plumber handyman guy. That's how much work that took. That was the first interaction I've had with her since November 2022. Like
wow.
the text chain is still there the last time we talked.
Mm.
That's my kind of puzzle.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? I mean, let's just put this out there since he called me out for being somebody who sells books and courses and all of that. Might it be true that he is talking his book? He tells people to buy short-term rentals. It's a puzzle. You're probably doing it bad. Let me do it better for you. Oh, by the way, we have a company called Gateways, a short-term rental management company. I don't know. Sounds like that might be talking your book. What do you think, Matt?
I think he's in a unique opportunity, obviously, with bigger pockets. He was given the biggest stage in all of YouTube for, talking about real estate stuff. And he recognized very quickly, and I think that's smart, he recognized very quickly with that platform that he could feed business after business after business in that area. There's a reason why he didn't open up a nail salon, because
Right.
he wasn't on YouTube talking about nail salons. He was on YouTube talking about real estate. And so everything that he did was real estate related. And again, when you do something only in one vein, it's great when that market is booming. But now, if he likes to solve puzzles, he's going to have the biggest puzzle in his life in the next 2 years, solving that puzzle. And that's a lot of moving parts. And that's enough to bring any person mentally. No, it doesn't matter how much you like solving puzzles. It's enough to bring a person down.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
my concern for him, is just absolute pure burnout, because people come to him because he was on the most trusted real estate channel in all of real estate and YouTube. So people came to him with every problem. He's not solved every problem, not even for himself, but he would still proffer answers. And I think that that's the thing that is concerning to me, is I know that a majority of the students that have taken my class, I know that they would not be good entrepreneurs. I
Yeah.
know they wouldn't be, but
I would be horrible. Oh,
I know they can. I know they can be great landlords, and that
yeah.
that can show them a path like Dion has. And Dion's exactly right. Coach Carson is exactly right. Millennial Mike is exactly right. You don't need to build a portfolio of mine and Zoob's size to be happy or have enough money. The other second piece, and I'll close with this from my piece of this, is that I think what's really, really interesting is that people think that to get to 145 or your 187, Mike, I think to get to those numbers, I think people think that it takes something different. It doesn't. What it takes is doing it right and then repeating doing it right.
And time.
Right. Well, that's the
Time.
thing, is that's
Yeah.
because that's how you do it right. That's
Yep.
how you do it right. And that's why the first 5 years, they're the slowest, they're the most painful, they're the
Oh.
most important. They're all of those things. And every year it gets easier. Every property it gets easier. Every one that you do gets easier. And then it becomes a matter of a Dionism, which is, you know what? I'm kind of good where I'm at. I've got enough money. I like my bullshit to money ratio. And that's what I'm going to work with. That's the one that I like. And Dion will, likely downsize. We're strategically downsizing now, but once you have the business kind of where you want it, throwing off the amount of cash flow that you do, at that point, it's just fine tuning. And there is a reason, once you've gotten to that point, Mike, for you, it's even more passive than it is for Dion, because all you're doing, largely speaking, is looking at a spreadsheet and going, okay, what's the plan with these two? Are we doing
Yep.
evictions?
Yep.
And that's it. And that's the business that you're happy with.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
and that's the huge win, is that it's something for everybody, depending on what level you want to be. And then that's going to determine the amount of margin that you're going to have and the number of properties that you're going to need to then get to the number that you want to get to.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when I think about what we do as a family under one rental at a time, is we want people to realize, if you want to get wealthy, just get to 4, right? 4 is kind of a magic number. I'm not promising 4 is financial freedom. I'm not making any of those promises. I'm saying if you get to 4, your retirement will be better. That was my goal when I bought my very first one. My goal was always 4. We do talk about if you want to get wealthy, you got to keep going, but it takes a decade. And I think most people, again, according to Ed Milet, 1 in 10 is an entrepreneur, so that means 9 out of 10 aren't. It's a very simple process. Go become the best employee you can, live below your means, stack disposable income, become elite at something. I call it a buy box, and do it for a freaking decade. It's that freaking simple. All right, let's switch topics. I got a long list. I wanted to make sure I hit this one. I want to appreciate David Greed for kind of bringing this one up, and he actually acknowledged why he creates content. And I think this is one of the mental, kind of shifts that makes us very different. David Green is creating content to fill a funnel. He was open with that. He said, I create content to feed my sales reps leads. We don't do that. And I've had conversations with Ryan Pineda, Pace Morby, Sean Connell, massive people talking about what we're doing at one rental at a time. And they all tell me, Zuber, you've got to get a funnel. You've got to get a this. You got to get a that. I'm like, guys, you don't get it. I have no interest in that. I don't want employees. I'm trying to create content so I can feel like I'm contributing in a positive way every day. I can leave a legacy after I'm dead. That's my game. It's a slow burn. But when David Green basically very disrespectfully said Zuber, is selling books and all these other things to fund his lifestyle. Are you freaking kidding me? I make $2,500 a month on YouTube, and I spend $2,000 for a guy to create thumbnails. I sell 20 books. And oh, by the way, I give all this stuff away every week. I document my stuff every week on something I call goals. You think I have a couple of homes and take 3 or 4 baller vacations a year because of freaking 7 book sales? Are you freaking kidding me? You disrespectful idiot. We are different. I am trying to change, motivate, encourage people. You are trying to sell people shit. You talked about in your 30 fucking minute video about a brokerage, a finance firm, gateways, universities, masterminds, Spartan leagues, retreats, accelerator courses, referrals, pillars to wealth. You're trying to sell people stuff. I am trying to help people. We are fundamentally different.
That's
only
my
10 rant.
Things. I think you missed something.
My God, drives me crazy.
So here's why Matt got blocked on Green's channel.
I didn't get blocked. I only got my thing
deleted. Okay, so you're not blocked yet.
Oh no, you didn't block me yet. That'll come later.
David's had a few years, right? Successful years.
Oh yeah.
Leveraging bigger pockets to grow these businesses.
Yes.
And now he doesn't.
Yes.
So he goes, okay, in order to keep feeding this beast, let me do YouTube, right? He's got the personality, he's got the following, he's got the fan base. Maybe he can grow a channel. He's got to hit the algorithm, right? And so if that's possible, now if he does that, he can feed the beast. If he loses that, 1 or 2 of the right comments at the right video could tell people, oh, maybe this isn't the information for me. Because we talk to different audiences. There are people out there that are like, and I get the comments all the time, I would never want to retire because what's the point of life if you're not trying to make yourself better? My response is, how sad is life if work is the only way that you make yourself better? But that person might like the puzzle. They might want to go do the short term, hard term, have the entrepreneurship. So he's got a target audience out there. And what I want to finish up when we get to toward the end of this is, and I want to put it way late in the video. I didn't even want to reference it early in the video because I'm not sure if I want to share this with Bigger Pockets. I know what their problem is at Bigger Pockets, and I know how to solve it. And it was something to do with David Green, Brandon Turner. It's something to do with the host, and going to start their own YouTube channel. They're making the same mistake. That was the mistake that got them pushed out of Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Millennial Mike. Millennial Mike, part of the 4 Avengers, big part of he's a great friend of all of ours. He put out a wonderful video talking about the Bigger Pockets. I don't know, call it cleansing, reset, whatever you want to call it. And I think he was right on all 5 accounts. I think maybe this is wishful thinking because again, I think amongst the 4 of us, I was on Bigger Pockets first, right? I was on Bigger Pockets when it was Josh Dorkin in his basement building this thing, right? You can go back. The videos are still there. I checked. I think I was interview like 148 or something. So I was really early. And Bigger Pockets back then was very much like we do. Hey, we've got some experience. We have some opinions. We don't know it all, but let's see if we can help others. And oh, by the way, maybe others can help us. It was very much that. It got, after 14 years, because of some family challenges, Josh had to sell. Liquidity event for him. Congrats. Now it's a publishing arm and an education arm, and it's got to feed its beast, to steal one of Matt's thoughts. I am thinking that Bigger Pockets might go back to its roots. I think Bigger Pockets has looked at the risk calculus and said, we are a little bit too far out on this risk curve. I believe, and I could be absolutely wrong, that there are probably lots of limited partners who got into syndications because of them that are now lost. I believe there's a lot of people that jumped into Airbnb because of them and lost. I think there's a lot of people that got into flips because of them and lost. Now, of course, there's lots of people that won as well, but it's the people who lost that could be a problem later. So I think they're good. I think they're dumping all risky folks like cash flow, don't bet on cash flow, bet on appreciation types. What do you guys think of that? Maybe we'll go to Matt first.
So Dion was the one who talked about feeding the beast. He knows about the beast. But I know that from me and from my perspective, I don't think so much it's a Bigger Pockets problem. I think because I don't know the inside of Bigger Pockets. So I think I feel like this is a Dion answer. It's kind of scaring me a little bit. But I don't think it's an inside Bigger Pockets problem. I think what it is I think that they're probably pretty smart from the perspective that they interact with their talent, the people that are on the front end that are talking to their customers essentially. And I think that there's a lot of input from them. And I think that I think what happened probably 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more, was it became a lot more of top the last story. This guy did 224 months. Well, this guy did 250 in 20 months. Well, this guy did 400 in 18 months. And so it became a topper of toppers. And I think the challenging thing is from mature operators or elite operators, I'll say that, for elite operators like us that run our businesses elite based on how we want them run. There's not one model that we have. We all have different models, but we're elite in how we operate that model. I think the key to that is we recognize that it's really about doing a deal, a good deal, and then doing another good deal, and then another good deal. And when you have to accumulate that number of units, the doors isn't what needs to impress people. That's not the right number. How much you're getting through the bottom line, that's the number that matters, because that's the only number that matters when you're ready to retire. So I think that, I think to a certain degree, I think that they looked at the talent that they had on the front side. And I think that they had those conversations with them and said, hey, what's your thoughts on where we should take this thing? And I think that for a long time, YouTube had been sensationalism, right? That's why all the idiot on fire guys with stuff like that on every single one of their thumbnails. That's why people are just like, oh, tragedy, click, and the funny thing about it is that when tragedy is where you're living, and when there's a down economy and people have lost their jobs, you know what they need to hear? Something to boost them up, but they need to hear a practical plan, step by step. And the fact of the matter is that somebody like Zoob isn't going to sell or finance to a deal to somebody that's brand new and never done this before because he doesn't want the headache.
No.
And I did it to somebody and they were literally like, hey, we need you to fix this problem. I go, bro, for all intents and purposes, I'm Bank of America. Bank of America doesn't fix shit.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a you problem.
Yeah.
I was like, not a me problem. And so it was kind of funny from that perspective. But I think that, again, Bigger Pockets clearly has drawn a line in the sand of what they believe their brand should be. And I think that they're taking it a different direction. And so I'm excited to see where that different direction is going to go.
I think Bigger, again, as the guy who has interacted with Bigger Pockets for, God, almost 20 years, I think Bigger Pockets in 6 months is far closer to Bigger Pockets 15 years ago.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Than it is today. So, and I think that's a good thing. I think we need to talk about slow and steady. It's hard, you know, one at a time is okay. And I think if Bigger Pockets went back to that and got away from the, hey, he's 24 and has 202 units, all seller finance. Yeah, it's just not realistic. Let's go try to talk to the biggest audience and let's help everybody get a little bit more wealthy. I think that I would love to see Bigger Pockets has the largest platform, the largest, presence. And I would love them to help more and more people. And I think that I'm going to put it out there right now. That's what they're doing. That's their goal. I have no idea. I don't talk to them. They ignore me. I've reached out a dozen times, and I think Mike Zuber's on the new do not talk to list. That's okay. It happens. But I hope they they turn that battleship and they do something else in 6 months. Dion?
Well, hopefully that changes with Dave Myers as the host. He might not have the anti-Zuber sentiment. And so whenever Bigger Pockets comes up, right? So I've been on the shows, I've guest co-hosted, I'm a teaching assistant for their real estate rookie podcast. So I kind of have like vested interest in them and Bigger Pockets succeed. I want to see them do well. Just like you contributed to me being able to retire early. Like what you put out in your book, what they put out on their content, right? Not all their shows, but a lot of their shows. I was like, oh, I could take notes from that, learn from it. And so my first thought when I go, okay, what's Bigger Pockets? What were they doing wrong? They got the first step, which was too complicated, is they have the Grant Cardone syndrome, right? Once he got big, he said, if you're looking at a real estate deal and it doesn't have 16 doors, don't talk to me. That's now 32 doors, right? So you mentioned it earlier. It's really hard to remember what it's like not to know something. So what I like about the one rental at a time theory is get to 4. It's attainable. At 4, you can now decide, is this for me or is this not, right? It's not get to 100 plus and then, you'll know if you like it or not. But here's what Bigger Pockets got wrong, right? And so I'm calling out a company that I like on what they got wrong. The host, and this is the sentence, if they can understand this sentence, this would make them better in the future. Because why were people watching Bigger Pockets? Here's what they did wrong. The hosts became somebody the viewer doesn't want to be. When you first turn on Bigger Pockets, there's the Michael Zuber face I always hope to see in my videos when I'm talking. When you first open up Bigger Pockets, you go, look, and you don't like the guy. You've publicly said, I don't like Brandon Turner. As a viewer, first interaction with them, not having worked there, not having interacted with them, I'm like, you're from Aberdeen. That's Podunk, Washington. You got to 24 and got to move to Hawaii to house hack a triplex. How the F do I do this? I'm going to every freaking up. I don't care who the guest is. I get to listen to Brandon do that. Oh, wait, syndications, 50 plus mobile parks attached to city. None of this matters to me. Okay. Now I'm going to start watching the guests. Now you got David Green. You're a cop. You're house hacking in the Bay Area. You're acquiring rentals that now let you do other things like, oh, I could try to open the lender and it can be a broker. And oh, now you're doing all these things I don't want. What they need is a host who can do whatever things they want with their life, but who presents the information that the viewer wants to be. If you can go, if you buy rentals over a decade or 15 years, you can buy this house on a mountain, overlook Vegas, have a house in the Bay Area, have a house on the East Coast, take these 15 plus day cruise things, go see all these countries, talk to a camera every day to share with people how you did it. Everyone's going, how do I do Zuber? How am I the next Zuber? You didn't go, here's all these other things that you have to do this. I'm hoping, don't get caught living on hopium, that Dave Myers or whatever host they bring on in the future lives a life where the viewer goes, whatever the guest is, right? Bring on the guest. They all have something to share, but a host you want to be.
I hope they go that way. I don't know David Myers at all. I don't think I've ever communicated with him.
He's a nice guy, like data driven. I've had a few interactions with him, just like via social media and stuff like that. I've actually enjoyed him, because it's a lot of it's data driven, and I'm a data guy. So I love numbers. And so
Yeah.
when we're talking about those things, yeah. So far, I've liked that part of them for sure.
Yeah. I think Dion's onto something. And again, Bigger Pockets is a company, it's a corporation. It's a media house. I think they've looked in the mirror and realized that they were going down a dangerous path. They've made some hard pivots. They've pushed some pretty big names away. I mean, I know some people that were in their roster that are no longer in their roster because they thought what they were doing kind of didn't fit their future. So yeah, my hope to your point, Dion, yeah, that face that you always get me on, it's amazing how consistent you are. I think you're right. So share that sentence one more time.
The hosts became somebody the viewers don't want to be.
Yeah, and they made to me what that was, and this is something I struggle with. Well, I don't would say I struggle with. I'm conscious of. I don't struggle. I'm conscious of. I always want to be the guy talking about four. That is what changed my life. I spend a lot of time not flexing, not doing this, not doing that because it's not what I want to be. I want to be the guy that gets people to 4 or 10, not 100 plus. And I think if Bigger Pockets found that creator, I think because that is how you change the middle class. If you want, like you guys know my mom, Dorothy Zuber, she replies to all these comments. She talks to me at least once a week. And she has said this for 5 years. And I only got it in this very freaking moment. Mom, if you watch this, thank you. She has told me for 5 years, we are changing the middle class. And I've always poo-pooed that. I'm like, Mom, you don't get it. You know, we're not doing that. But Bigger freaking Pockets has the platform, the
Heck yeah.
voice, the name recognition to change the middle class forever. They can do that if they choose to, and I hope they go that route. Dion, let's wrap this up. Closing thoughts, whatever you'd like to say. Mom, thank you.
I appreciate every one of the comments from everybody who watches the videos, but I'm always excited when I see your mom's comments.
It is a really awesome feeling to be 50. How old am I now? 52 or 53, and have your mom comment on your videos. Dorothy, thank you. Mom, nice job.
That's awesome. And I'll wrap up with, I wish Bigger Pockets the best in the future. I wish David Green the best in the future. And I hope they find their audiences, right? Because David's audience isn't our audience. There's a clear separation there.
Clear separation.
I hope that David can do it without saying negative things about your competition, right? If he wants to say negative things, I fully encourage him to go out there and attack the Crash Bros, right?
Yeah, please.
There's so much negativity there that it made me realize that there's an acronym that has made my life amazing. And it's what I'm going to be covering in my live stream tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. It's API, and how just the acronym API, which I'll explain, has given me an amazing life when I could have gone a different route.
That's amazing. Tune in to Dion's live stream tomorrow to learn what API is. I don't even have a freaking guess, and I'm thinking right now. Matt, what closing thoughts? What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think, you know, it's different people are going to get. I think this is why I really encourage people to watch all of you guys. You know, you saw it in the live yesterday, Mike. It's like I'd say, hey, this is where he's really strong, and this is where Dion's strong, and this is where Mike is strong. I don't think anybody should be getting all of their information from one person ever. And I know that because I've been on enough other channels where people are only drinking through that straw and they wonder why they're struggling in 3 or 4 areas. And it's because that host hasn't figured that piece out yet. And so, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you know, I never delete anybody's comment, even when it's rude and disgusting and horrible. I never delete them. And so when I got deleted yesterday for basically just disagreeing, I was a little bit surprised because I think you're not going to be able, when you're on your own, you're not going to be able to be so thin skinned that when somebody disagrees with you or does it a different way, that you can't just delete their comment. Because at the end of the day, I don't think he even looked up if I had a channel. That'd be my guess. And his immediate approach was, well, based on your unit count, those are all commercial. Okay, well, you're wrong. But I think when you make those assumptions, I think that that's one of the things that I've learned in doing this is that you can't assume, you have to ask. And it's question. But I do that because I'm a professional salesperson and have been for 26 years. So we just ask, right, Mike? We just ask.
Absolutely.
We just ask. We're just like,
Just
okay,
ask.
what does that mean? So yeah. So I mean, while it was an unfortunate event, I hope that it creates a dialogue with everybody, because I think that there's things that can be learned from David. I just don't think it's buy and hold real estate to retire from your W-2.
Yeah, it's really funny. Again, I was hot and bothered on Saturday. I'm so glad we're recording this on Monday. I actually do think there's a lot more similarities. You know, would be really crazy,
Hmm.
and I'm not even sure I would say yes to this, given how disrespectful he was. A David Green and Zuber show, because again, we see the world very different, but I think we want the same results for people. I think that might be a wild kind of, almost red and blue kind of show. Um, that would be wild, probably. Again, I don't know that I would do that given how disrespectful he was. But again, I do want to wish Bigger Pockets well. I do think Bigger Pockets has the ability to change the middle class in a positive direction. And what do I mean by that? I mean, grow the middle class. I think Bigger Pockets has the ability to grow the middle class. And there are very few platforms out there that have that ability. So I wish Bigger Pockets the best of luck, karma, whatever you want to call it. I think they're heading in the right direction. I want to wish David Green well. I have no ill will towards anyone. I think there's like two people I hate in this world. One is the governor of California, and the other has the initials BT. Freaking hate those people. But that's my deal. That's my issue. Everybody else, man, go have fun. Go nuts. I wish you all the best. Guys, you're amazing. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for helping me on Saturday, helping me on Sunday, and helping me on Monday. You're amazing.
See you, Mike.
Ciao.